Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me on Facebook in the Sorcerers Guild. Today on Magical Theory, we are going to be talking about the importance of a good hat. Now, I'm sure to some of you the title of this particular video sounds a bit silly, but there is a lot of magical precedence for the idea of a magical hat. There's also a lot of precedence for this idea in our culture. We have the idea of a man of many hats, as in each one of these hats has a skill with it. We have our putting on our thinking caps or our adventure hats. There are lots of ideas with hats in our society. So, we can take advantage of this. And one of the first ways that we can do this is with the idea of a man of many hats and a thinking cap. Yeah, we can create a thinking cap, and what that would be is a hat. Whatever hat you choose would be fine. This doesn't have to be any particular style of hat, but you would take a hat and decide this is your thinking cap. You could even add a sigil to it, off of the word thinking cap, or I think clearly, this hat makes me smart, whatever statement of intent you want to use. And then you could just write that on a piece of paper, tuck it up inside the hat, or if you have this skill, you could stitch it into the hat however you want to do it. And then when you wear this hat, over time your mind will begin to associate the idea of wearing this hat with it's time to think. And this will become a very literal thinking aid that is working not just magically because of the statement of intent, but also developing sense memory from the idea of putting on the hat. We can take this idea even farther and use the hat to create a wearable tulpa. The hat is something that very much is something that people associate with different archetypes. Yeah, you have the fancy hat that the Pope wears, you have police hats, fireman hats. All these are archetypes. So you can get yourself a hat, create an archetype or wearable tulpa that you associate with that hat, and the hat would be its vessel. And then when you put on the hat, you take on that persona. I've talked about wearable tulpas in previous videos. I'll leave a link to that here if you're interested in working with that concept. But a hat would be a very good choice for the item to put on when you activate the wearable tulpa. Okay, so beyond that, we have, of course, a few different hats that are associated with magic, and I have two that I like to use that we're going to be discussing. The first that we'll talk about is your classic top hat. You guys have seen me wear this in a few videos, and the idea with the top hat is that you are condensing energy into the hat, and it's almost kind of a grounding technique because it keeps your energy inside of you. And this is a useful hat anytime you are attempting to use glamour magic or be charming. Anytime you're putting energy down into the self, it's a good hat to use, and it has very practical purposes that way. It's also a very good choice for a traveling hat. You could actually make a traveling hat from any type of hat that you chose. But I find the top hat has a special connection to the idea of the clever coachman, which I believe, discussed in previous videos. If I find one, I'll leave a link to it as well. But what the clever coachman is a Hungarian myth that talks about, well, riding in a coach. And most of the magic involved with helping one to drive and travel was cast through the clever coachman's hat. One of the most well-known techniques, one of the techniques that I found mentioned the most while researching this idea of the clever coachman was that one could overtake another coach that they were chasing by sprinkling salt on their hat. I have yet to have a chance to test the veracity of that, but I have found that linking this hat to the idea of the clever coachman has at the very least given me a driving hat that improves my skill and luck while driving or traveling at all. And we will actually talk a little bit about how to make some of these hats, but before we get to that, I want to get to the other hat, and that is your classic witch or wizard hat. This you have seen me wear in a few videos as well. It's a bit older now, but still in pretty good condition. And the idea with this hat is to broadcast energy out. With this hat, you are focusing your energy up through your head, through the pointed tip of the hat, much like so that it comes out to a refined point at the top, much like when you were using a wand. Yeah, you are pushing the energy out through a tool so that it can be in a more refined and controlled flow. The same is I do with this hat here. It is working like an antenna. It's similar to the idea of the cone of power that we talk about when casting a circle. The idea that there's the outer edge, and then the magic goes up from the outer edge to a point as all the practitioners in the circle's energy combines, and it goes up to a point. It's the same idea with this, only it is your own thoughts condensing around the circle of the hat and going up to a point. And like I said, this is almost working like an antenna, and this can be used in conjunction with the rest of the ritual. So this is also a hat that allows you to step into gnosis. Well, both the hats are, yeah? The one steps you into the gnosis of someone into charm and stuff like that. The top hat steps you into the gnosis of being able to be more sociable. And for me, it helps remove social anxiety. So that's part of the reason that I will wear that hat in social settings, is because it helps remove that anxiety and just magically loosens my tongue and allows me to make small talk, which isn't something that I'm typically very comfortable with. While this hat is one that it creates a sense memory of, when I put on this hat, I am performing magic. I am now the wizard. I am now the witch. It goes along with putting on the magical robes that a lot of your ritual sorcerers will do. As they do the ritual, they'll put on the magical robes, like I've got here, and then the hat. And putting on these items allows one to enter into the ritual state. So they are very helpful in that way as well. That's that sense memory I was talking about before, and this idea of creating archetypes. Okay, so I said as well that we are going to talk a bit about how to make these hats. I made both these hats here. We'll talk about the wizard's hat first. Okay, so with these hats, what I did is I actually went and got a hat from the thrift store. This was a cowboy hat. It was actually a Stetson cowboy hat. It's nice, quite nice felt. Like I said, it's got some age to it now. I've had this hat for quite a while. But what you do is you go and you buy yourself whatever hat you want to use for the brim. That's what you're buying. You're buying the brim. You can make your own brim if you so desire. There are a lot of videos on YouTube. If you look up how to make a witch's hat, there are lots of videos on how to do it. And you can get patterns off of Google. But it's really quite simple if you do it the way that I do. You go and you get yourself a hat, and then take one of these. It's tailor's tape. It's just a long tape with measurements on it. Oh, I've got it backwards. Rolled it up backwards last time I used it, apparently. Okay, so then what you will do is you will take the top of the hat, and of course it needs to be one that fits you, and measure the outside of the hat all the way around, like so. Well, it's not a precise measurement. When you're doing this, you want to put the hat on a table, not just hold it up like this, and get an accurate measurement. And then you're going to want to add about 1/4 inch, because that's going to be your sewing line. Because a bit of the hat is going to, it's going to come in as you sew it. And then you'll get yourself a pattern online, and you make a cone shape with a circular bottom for the pattern, and then you cut it out to the length that you measured. And then you just cut off the top of the cowboy hat and sew this one in. What you want to get is these, they're curved needles. It's an upholstery needle. That's the easiest way to do it. You can do it with a regular needle, but you'll have to go in, and you'll have to push the needle in, go on the outside, go onto the inside of the hat, pull it all the way through, and then push it back. If you get a curved needle, then you can just curve right through both parts, knot it, pull it through the loop, and just keep doing that all the way around and sew it right on there. Now, like I said, if you do this, I do suggest that you look up a video and get a pattern off of Google that you can copy, because I'm not going to be doing a full demonstration on it today. It takes a few hours. And then we, of course, have the top hat. These, oh, back to the pointed hat for just a moment. Making the hat stand, yeah? Because if you just make it normal, like this, it's going to, it'll stay up for a while, but then when the air gets out, it'll flop over. A lot of your videos are going to say to put wire in there. I mean, it don't look too bad flopped over if that's how you like it. But if you want it to stand, a lot of the videos that you see are going to talk about putting wire in there. I don't suggest wire. I suggest get a couple bandanas, that type of thing, and just stick those up in there. It adds a little bit of weight to the hat, but that gives you somewhere to put things. And if you need a bandana or a handkerchief for any reason, you've got a couple in your hat. And that makes it stand up really well. Okay, so on to the top hat. Fortunately, I have never actually glued the disc in, so I can show you what that is as well. Okay, so same deal. Get yourself a cowboy hat or whatever type of hat you want to use. Take the thing, the tailor tape, put it all the way around, measure it, and then you want to go up however high you want to. You can make this as tall as you want, really, and you're just going to make a strip. That is, you want to make sure it's the same length on both ends, and then you're just going to make a strip all the way around. For that, you sew that together like so. Again, if you can get the curved needle, they're a little bit easier. This was leather though, so you want to get a fairly strong needle if you're going to use leather. And then once you've done that, that will give you your measurement for the top. And you just take the circle, spread it all the way out, and then draw a circle on the inside on a piece of cardboard. Cut that piece of cardboard out, and you will have like this. And you just take that and put it up inside the hat. And then if you want it to stand perfectly, you can put another line of cardboard along the inside. This is what they will tell you in the videos if you look up the videos for this. Or you can, again, put handkerchiefs in there to push the hat up. And especially if you've got it really tall, you're going to want something in there. I find the cardboard uncomfortable. So again, you can use the handkerchiefs. Push them up in there, and that works quite well. Okay, so that's about making the hats. There's one other part. There's the headbands. I don't have a headband on the top hat right now, but on this one I do. And this is a great place to add charms, like my owl charm here. And this allows those things to be close to your, well, I mean, it's real close to my third eye right there, right? It's practically on it. And that allows me to communicate with my owl spirit while I'm wearing this hat as well. And you can add things like that. You can add any kind of stuff that you want to the band around the hat. It's a great opportunity to add extra spell work to the tool. Okay. So I think that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you once again for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. Until next time, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal.